Ever notice how in like every medical drama on TV, they bring someone back from the brink of death with like a single shot?
Right?
Turns out the real deal is way more interesting
Oh, for
than
sure.
some Hollywood magic.
Yeah.
You guys wanted to know all about damage control, resuscitation, DCR.
Mm-hmm.
So we're diving deep into the what, the how, and the, wait, they used to do what of it all?
It's a wild ride, trust me.
Okay then, listener, buckle up, because our research has us going all the way back to 1666.
Back to the very first blood transfusions.
That long ago.
Yep, Richard Lower.
Yeah.
Way ahead of his time.
What, did he have like those little IV bag things?
Well, not quite.
Okay, but
He did successfully transfuse blood.
between
Dogs.
dogs, that's something else.
Definitely groundbreaking, though.
So, like all good science, they took it a little too far.
Let's just say transfusing sheep's blood into humans.
Oh no.
Didn't go so well.
Yeah, figured.
But hey, gotta start somewhere, right?
I guess so.
Fast forward a few centuries, and we're on the battlefields of World War I.
Talk about high pressure.
No kidding. That's where we meet Dr. Oswald Robertson.
This is where things get really interesting, huh?
Oh yeah, he basically invented the blood bank.
No way.
And get this, on the battlefield.
Talk about a need-based invention. Storing blood on ice. In a war zone. Genius.
Right, talk about a pioneer.
So then how do we end up with, like, saline solution? Seems like medical treatments do a full circle sometimes.
It's true, there was that detour back in the 70s.
What happened?
A study came out pushing for crystalloids.
Crystalloids.
Basically just salt solutions to help stabilize people.
Instead of blood.
Became the popular treatment for a while.
Even though, and correct me if I'm wrong, it doesn't actually carry oxygen.
You're right, seems kind of obvious now, but back then.
So what happened? Why'd they stop using it so much?
Well, let's just say it sometimes caused more problems than it solved.
Yikes, you don't love to hear that.
Doctors call it iatrogenic injury. Injury caused by the treatment itself.
No, that's just scary.
Yeah.
Okay, so from saline back to blood, how did we get to this whole DCR approach?
Well, those saline shortcomings, they became pretty obvious on another battlefield.
This time.
Iraq and Afghanistan. Military doctors needed a way to treat these really bad injuries fast, and sometimes their resources were limited.
So it was about what? Getting back to basics.
Exactly. Stop the bleeding, replace blood loss, with blood.
Makes sense when you say it like that.
And that's where DCR took off from.
Wow, so it really all comes back to the battlefield.
In a lot of ways, yeah.
Huh. Who knew we had so much to thank those doctors for?
Right.
But DCR isn't like a one-and-done type thing, is it?
That's the thing. It's constantly evolving.
So the more we learn, the better it gets.
Exactly.
That's actually really cool. So we've come a long way, sheep blood to battlefield breakthroughs.
It's quite a journey.
But what makes DCR so different? What makes it work so well? That's what we'll get into next.
Can't wait. It's funny how that happens, right?
Totally. In part one, we were talking about sheep blood.
Oh, yeah.
And now look where we are.
Crazy.
So we went from sheep blood to battlefields and now this whole DCR thing. But what makes it so revolutionary? Like, what's the secret ingredient?
Well, imagine you're a trauma surgeon, busy ER.
Okay, I can barely handle a paper cut, but go on.
And you've got a patient who's lost a lot of blood, like a lot, every second counts, right?
Right.
So in the past, we focused on this thing called the lethal triad.
Lethal triad. Sounds bad.
It is. Those three main things that can go wrong in these situations.
Mm-hmm.
Acidosis, your blood becoming too acidic.
Yeah.
Then there's hypothermia, dangerously low body temperature. And finally, coagulopathy.
So your blood's not clotting right.
Exactly. Three things you really don't want happening all at once.
Especially with all that blood loss.
Exactly. And they kind of like feed off each other, making things worse.
Oh, no.
Now, here's where DCR comes in. It's like, hold on, there's a fourth thing we need to worry about.
Something else.
It's called hypocalcemia.
Hypo what now?
It's a calcium deficiency.
Calcium. What does that have to do with anything?
Well, your body needs calcium to clot blood properly.
Oh, right.
And the thing is, a lot of these trauma patients, they're already low on calcium even before they get to the hospital.
Wait, seriously?
Yep, their body's already struggling, and then you add blood loss on top of it.
Wow.
That's why DCR is all about getting that calcium back in early.
Makes sense, like shoring up the foundation before you build the house.
Exactly. So we've got this lethal diamond now, and calcium's a key player. But DCR is also really big on whole blood, right?
Yeah, we kind of went on a whole thing about that earlier.
It's amazing how far we've come, but also how we're circling back to the importance of, actual blood.
Like, back to basics.
Exactly. Whole blood, especially the fresh stuff, it's got everything your body needs to clot and heal
They use a ton of it in the military, right?
all the time.
Yeah.
They even have those walking blood banks.
Walking blood banks, what is that, like a line of volunteers?
Pretty much. Pre-screened soldiers ready to donate on the spot.
Wow, that's incredible.
Talk about being in the right place at the right time.
Seriously. Though I'm guessing you can't really just, like, grab a soldier off the street here.
Not quite. In civilian hospitals, we use something called low-titer typo whole blood.
Catchier name, too.
Right. And the important thing is it's got a longer shelf life, so it's always ready to go.
Like a life-saving pantry staple.
Exactly. And then there are the medications.
There's more.
Oh, yeah. For example, for a long time, doctors thought using drugs to raise blood pressure, we call them vasopressors,
Oh, yeah,
they thought they were always bad in these trauma situations.
but they're not.
It's not always so black and white. Sometimes it can be really helpful. DCR is all about understanding the specifics of each case, not just sticking to some old rule book.
So, like, knowing when to use the tools you've got.
Exactly. And speaking of tools, we've got to talk about TXA.
TXA. I feel like I've heard of that.
It's a clot-preserving drug.
Meaning,
It's like giving your body's natural clotting power a boost.
like an energy drink for your blood?
Exactly. And in those first few minutes after a trauma, those minutes, even seconds, can make all the difference.
TXA buys you some time.
Precisely. But DCR isn't just about the blood and the meds.
What else is there?
It's a whole philosophy of treatment.
Right. Like you said, understanding each individual case.
You got it. There's this whole other side of DCR, all these other techniques and interventions that come into play. We'll get into those right after this.
So we've covered a lot of ground, sheet blood,
Oh, yeah.
battlefield medicine, this whole DCR thing.
It's a lot.
But for our listener, picturing this all going down in some, like, sterile Hollywood operating room.
It's not exactly a movie set, that's for sure.
What's it really like when DCR kicks in? What's the scene?
Imagine like one of those cooking shows, right?
Okay.
They've got like 15 things going at once.
Right.
But somehow it all comes together in the end.
So you're saying I shouldn't try this at home?
Probably not. But yeah, that's kind of what it's like. Controlled chaos.
Controlled chaos. I like that.
Picture this. You're at a level 1 trauma center.
The big leagues.
Exactly. And word comes in, patient with massive blood loss on the way.
Every second counts.
Every single one. We're talking minimizing that door to treatment time. That's critical.
Isn't that like the golden hour or something?
It's all part of it, yeah. But it's not just about speed, it's about precision.
Right.
Even before the ambulance gets there, the team's getting ready, blood's on order, equipment's good to go, everyone's mentally preparing for, well, a pretty intense situation.
So it's like a, what do you call it, like a life-saving flash mob? Only instead of dancing, it's scalpels and blood transfusions.
You said it.
So the patient arrives, then what?
It's all hands on deck, rapid assessment, that's first.
But you've also got technology playing a big part now, right?
Huge. Things like fast exams, basically an ultrasound, right there at the bedside, helps us find internal bleeding.
So no time wasted.
Exactly. And then there's this thing called thromboelastography.
Please tell me there's a shorter name for that.
Don't worry, we just call it TEG. It's way easier. It basically tells us how well the blood's clotting.
In real time.
Yep. No more waiting around for lab results.
So it's about, what, constantly adapting the treatment plan.
You got it. And all of this is happening with this team, all these specialists, surgeons, anesthesiologists, nurses.
The A-team of trauma care?
The best of the best, working together seamlessly.
This is pretty awe-inspiring stuff. And like you said, it's getting even better all the time.
Yeah, DCR is constantly evolving, new techniques, new tech, always pushing the limits.
So what does all this mean for our listener at home? Besides, don't get injured, although good advice.
Right. But seriously, knowing how your local trauma system works, that could make a real difference.
Like, what should they be asking?
Are they equipped for DCR? Can they do it quickly and effectively? It's worth looking into, just in case.
Because you never know, right? Knowledge is power, but only if you use it.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And on that note, we'll leave you with this. We've been talking about DCR for physical trauma, but what if we could take these same principles, the rapid response, the constant adaptation,
Interesting.
and apply them to other parts of life? Something to think about. That's it for this deep dive into damage control resuscitation. Thanks for joining us.